Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Transformers Generation Selects Decepticon G2 Sandstorm. Sandstorm is a figure that I'm pretty sure many of us were not expecting. However, for me he was really a pleasant surprise, as I am a huge fan of the Conehead mould, and to get it done in a little bit more of an unusual deco, I certainly knew that I had to add him to the collection. Now Sandstorm, I believe, was one of the cancelled G2 figures slash characters that was meant to be released back in the 90s, however for whatever reason it was unfortunately scrapped until 2020. A little under 30 years after he was supposed to make his debut, we are finally getting a plastic representation of him. Taking a look here at the packaging, you can see that of course it is standard for the now Generation Select figures. We do get Decepticon Sandstorm, and there really isn't anything else here to the box. So without further ado, let's crack him open and see what awaits us inside. So of course we just want to snip this section here, and let's take a look at the G2 Sandstorm. Pretty nice looking figure by the looks of it. It does appear to be a repaint of Ramjet. And just very quickly taking a look at the instruction manual, it's standard for the Earthrise figures, so you can see that we've got a really cool image of him here. And of course we've got all of the different various steps. So I'm going to crack Sandstorm open, and of course we'll take a closer look at the figure in both robot mode and of course in his jet mode. And so here we have Sandstorm opened up and out of the packaging, and for a repaint that is based on a rather obscure character, I think that this figure here has turned out rather nicely. Now of course, for those of you who already own the Coneheads, you'll pretty much know what to expect with this figure. However, I'm pretty sure that many collectors are going to be picking this figure up solely because he is a Conehead, and the Conehead figures have become so elusive to actually find. So that for me was certainly one of the main draws to this figure, but the paint deco has once again come out really nicely. Now as mentioned previously, he is based on, I believe, a very early concept design of a character that was supposed to appear in the original G2 continuity. However, for whatever reason he was scrapped, and I am glad that Hasbro did pick up this design and of course found a way to release it here in 2020, and it makes sense seeing as they did release the G2 Megatron, and as the Coneheads have come out this year, it wouldn't be viable for them not to find another way to actually reuse this mold. But taking a look here at the head sculpt, you can see that it is merely just the exact same sculpt that we did get with Ramjet and of course Thrust. Unfortunately for me, I have found that the colour scheme that they've used for the head is very dark, and it can actually wash out the details, but you are able to see some definition there to the nose and the mouth, and the eyes too have also been picked out in a very nice looking menacing red. We also do have the black nose cone section which has been painted, and as we take a look here at these back sections, from what I can tell they appear to have been given a slight beige wash over the top, and the little arrows here have also been picked out in a really nice red. As we take a look here at the torso, once again it's exactly the same as we've seen for all of the Coneheads, so we do have a little bit more of a compact chest section than compared to the likes of the Earthrise Starscream. I still am not a massive fan of how we do have the orange cockpit, however here for Sandstorm I don't think that it looks too bad whatsoever, and it does actually complement this overall beige slash camo colour scheme rather nicely in my opinion. As we take a look here at the arms, you can see that the null rays have been cast in the same plastic as what we get here for the forearms and what we get throughout the majority of the character's body, with some darker brown highlights here for where the biceps are, as well as here for the crutch plate. As we take a look here at the legs, you can see that the knees have been given a really nice looking deco with a mix of white and red paint apps, and once again it really does help to amplify some of the sharper details of the sculpt. And taking a look here down to the lower section, the sculpt work is incredibly impressive on this figure. You can see all of the intricate panel lining detail that we have got going on there for the shins, and then finally we do have a black paint app there for the toe. Taking a look here at these wing pieces, as mentioned earlier on in the review, this is just a direct reuse of what we got with the Earthrise Ramjet. However, as mentioned in my Thrust review, the Coneheads are actually one of my favourite Seeker molds, so personally I have no issue with this being a reuse whatsoever. It just maybe would have been nice if they could have given him a little bit of a different expression rather than just completely straight up repainting him. In terms of articulation, the head here is on a ball joint, so of course it can look left to right as well as look up and down. We do get full 360 rotation here at the shoulder, as well as a hinge joint out to the sides, full 360 here at the bicep, 90-degree bends here at the elbow, no waist rotation. However, the crutch plate can hinge forwards in order to accommodate for the leg kicking forward. They can kick back out to the sides, rotation here at the thigh, as well as a 90-degree bend here at the knee. And then finally, of course, we do have the signature War for Cybertron Trilogy ankle rocker pivot. So overall, as far as a figure goes, I think that it is a pretty decent one, and with the addition of an all new colour scheme, it for sure does make Sandstorm stand out when compared next to the other Coneheads.
Oh, but please, Thrust, I've got a cone on my head too. Please, can I be a part of your team? team? You are a cheap knockoff of one of our pre-existing team members. You are a reject. Go back to your cancelled G2 continuity.
Here for a very quick Conehead size comparison, you can see that we've got the original trio of G1 Coneheads compared here next to the G2 Sandstorm. And as mentioned earlier on in the review, this is of course just a direct repaint here of Ramjet. However, like I mentioned, a really nice looking repaint, and there are enough differences here in terms of the colour scheme in order for him to stand out when posed alongside some of these other Coneheads. So once again, even if you are not familiar with the character of Sandstorm and you just really like the Coneheads, I think that is a good enough excuse to worth picking this figure up. Here for a very quick G2 comparison, we of course have our new Sandstorm released next to, I presume, his wave mate, the G2 Megatron. Out of both of these repaints, personally, I do still prefer the G2 Megatron. I just think that what Hasbro did with this mold as far as the colour scheme was concerned was a little bit more interesting than what we got here with Sandstorm. However, once again, that's not to take anything away from this figure. I do know that he is accurate to the original concept and source material. It's just, if given the option between these two, I would definitely opt to go with G2 Megatron. And so, very briefly covering the transformation, to begin with, of course, you're going to want to remove the null rays. What we can then do is arch the head slightly backwards so that when we bring the real nose cone over, it does allow for enough clearance so that we don't scrape any of the nice black paint app that we do get on the top of his head. We can then take this section and, of course, snap that nice and securely into place. Once again, I do like to apply pressure to this region just to disengage this section. What we can then do is take the forearm, lift this section here up, take the wrist as well, and lift this up. And then this black piece here will indeed go through this hollow gap, so just snap that in there and clip that nice and securely into place. Of course, come here to this side and repeat the exact same process, so just bring all of this up and over, and of course snap that in there nice and securely. Of course, as this is a new figure, the joints are a little stiffer. We can then take the nose cone and of course elongate this, rotate this around, and snap this here into place. With that now done, we can take the arms and just fold them into the torso, and then come here to the body and just clip that in there nice and securely. We can then turn our attention here down to the lower section, disengage this front section, and then of course unhinge the back tab that we can see there, and it is just a matter of folding this here all the way down. Of course, repeat the exact same process here on the opposite side, and then what we can do is bring these pieces together, take the toes, snap them in nice and securely, bring this section here down, clip that into place, fold the knee pads up against where the crutch plate was, take this here, hinge this section out, and then just compress all of this in accordance. Once again, the joints are very stiff on this figure, so just snap that in there, and of course repeat the exact same process here for this side, ensuring that everything is aligned up appropriately. We can then take the null rays, and these here will simply just snap onto the underside of the wings, and bring in this one. And here we have our G2 Sandstorm, fully transformed up into his jet mode. And personally, as far as the two modes are concerned, I think that the jet mode is for sure the more interesting alt form, as I love the colour deco as well as the really nice looking decal that we do get here for the front. Taking a look here at the front of the nose cone, you can see that we've got what appears to be this almost shark design, which once again really does create for a rather original design when comparing this character here to some of the other Coneheads. I personally would have loved it if we could have got this character realised on the screen, but nonetheless, the paint detail has come out really nicely on this, and unlike Thrust, they have indeed painted the nose cone here completely in black. We of course do have the orange cockpit, which has got some nice interior detail, and I do think that the camo effect at the top of the jet has once again come out really well. It is for sure leaps and bounds better than what we got on the most recent Top Gun crossover with Maverick. I think that this here looks so well done. You can see that we do have the brown and white splotches. I do like the beige paint app that we do get here on these fin sections, and the same can also be said here for the opposite side. And once again, very nice looking details here for the thrusters, and just taking a look here at how that looks from a back perspective. Overall, a really solid looking mold, and as mentioned previously, even if you are not familiar with the character of Sandstorm and you are just a fan of the Coneheads or Seekers in general, I really do think that is a good enough excuse to worth picking this character up and of course adding him to your collection. And so, some final thoughts. If you are a fan of the G2 continuity, then this character here is of course a must have. He is one of the more obscure characters, as he never really made it into mainstream mainstream media, but as mentioned also in the review, I also do believe that this character will appeal to those who maybe haven't managed to obtain any mould of the Coneheads, or if you are a Seeker completionist. I personally do think that it is quite a nice repaint. My only major gripe with this character is that I believe the colour for the faceplate is way too dark, and it certainly does wash out some of the details. You can even see here that under extreme light you can barely make out the face and the nose from a very short distance, so that once again in my opinion is a little bit of a drawback. But as far as the colour scheme is concerned, I think that it works rather well, especially when we do get him into jet mode. So overall, if you are a fan of the Conehead design and you do like the G2 continuity, then I think that this character here is going to be a must-have. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.